Good morning to everybody. Let's start today's session with the most important issue is how this new ESPON 2030 will be implemented. And having regard yesterday's brainstorming in groups where the number of new ideas have been discussed on how these ESPON results could be produced in the new period and utilized in a more efficient way, today's session certainly is a place and time to discuss about the program's implementation issues. And today we will have an opportunity to learn more about the new program components and implementation mechanisms. And for the first, I will ask Thiemo to give us the introduction into new program again. Yeah.
So, thank you, Ingun. Hope you had a good evening last night. I think I enjoyed it very much, and thanks again for this nice setting. Now I will start to talk a bit more in depth about the implementation provisions which have been set up for the new program. And the guiding questions you see here, how the ESPON 2020 will be implemented, what is different to the ESPON 2013, and also what I think you are also very interested to know how the stakeholders and researchers will be involved. So first I will present the setup, also with the organizational chart. Then I will talk about how this multi-annual work program and annual work plans are developed, which are the base for the EGTSEE to work on. Then the involvement of stakeholders and the contracting of services by the EGTSEE. And then I would also like to say a bit more about the ECP network. I know there is quite some demand to better understand here the situation. So, this organizational chart, it's small, I know, but this will be also online, so you can check it in detail. But I would just like to point out a couple of things which are important for you to understand also then what your role is and what's maybe connected with your role. So on top you see the managing authority, which is in the ministry in Luxembourg. On the right you see the monitoring committee, which steers the managing authority. And here you can see the EGTSEE is in the center of the action. So what will happen is that the EGTSEE will write an operation proposal, regarding this priority implementation of the priority 1, and the managing authority will then, on the basis of the decision of the monitoring committee on this proposal, will sign a grant agreement with the ESPON EGTSEE. So the ESPON EGTSEE is the single beneficiary, and that actually means that in the structural funds logic, the whole control requirements are concentrated at the EGTSEE. So these boxes here, first level control, audit, they are addressing the managing authority and the single beneficiary. This is quite important to understand, and this is one of the really new aspects which are then also relevant for the contracting with research organizations and also with the tenderers who are interested to contribute here. So the ESPON EGTSEE, once it's got the agreed operation proposal, can then tender the projects according to public procurement rules. So this is a kind of subcontracting of service contracts, and therefore the new position of research organizations when being contracted on the major projects, applied research project and so on. They are not beneficiaries anymore as they were in the current setting. They are contractors, and therefore, because they are not beneficiaries, they are not subject to this control requirements. So the last institution I haven't addressed yet is the ESPON contact points network. Here the main task will be to contribute to the outreach of the program. And here you can see, when we look now to the bottom here, the target groups which have been named, that the main communication between the program bodies and the EGTSEE will go via the EGTSEE and the contact point. So when we talk about stakeholder involvement, user demand, and so on, this will take place between the EGTSEE and the target groups directly, and the ESPON contact points have the task of outreach, to support the outreach here. So this may look a bit complicated in the first stance, but I think when you look at it, it's rather clearly structured. In a way, you can see where the communication takes place and where the position of the bodies contributing, the organizations contributing to the knowledge production are placed. I will go now into some of the elements here. Maybe just for the ECP network to say, we have here these dotted lines, this square, dotted square or rectangle just says that here is a kind of platform, twice a year a meeting for coordination of outreach and communication between the managing authority on behalf of the monitoring committee, the EGTSEE, and the contact point. So we will have ESPON contact point meeting twice a year, where the participation of travel costs of one representative per contact point will be covered. So this is the coordination of the outreach and communication. So now I go zoom in, if you like, into different bodies and the relations between them. So first, the EGTSEE. The EGTSEE was established to act as single beneficiary for the single operation under the ESPON 2020 program. I think that was now said quite clearly. The members are Luxembourg and the 3 Belgian regions, and they have the task to ensure the functioning of the EGTSEE via the assembly. It's a purely administrative task which is executed there, because the steering or the monitoring of the activities will be done by the monitoring committee via work plans and other bodies to which I come later. So the organizational structure is in a way that we have a director and 2 head of units, one for content-related activities and one for finance and administration. So you have I would say, a rather classical way of organizing the organization. And as I said, the single beneficiary concentrates all the financial control related requirements in the program, a part of the MA, which implements then the technical assistance. So, and this body is actually, the creation of this body allows to switch to this mode of service contracts and public procurement. So now how is the EGTSEE actually taking up its activities. And it was said that the first thing is to say that the operation of the EGTSEE is based on a very transparent programming procedure. So the first step is that this operation proposal is presented by the EGTSEE after invitation from the monitoring committee to present a multi-annual work program, which is then discussed and approved by the monitoring committee. Then we have, this gives, if you like, the framework for the whole programming period. And it includes the grant offer letter, so the allocation of the grant to the EGTSEE. Now it's obvious that in a multi-annual work program you cannot be as detailed as it should be to have a transparent monitoring of the activity. Therefore, the EGTSEE will prepare annual work plans. And these annual work plans, they will be based on a consultation prior with the monitoring committee. There will be surveys made also on the demand from stakeholders, and it will be the base for the preparation of a work plan, which is submitted to the MA and evaluated, assessed by the monitoring committee and approved. So in order to also monitor the whole operation from the side of the results, we have the annual reports which are presented by the EGTSEE and have to be also approved by the monitoring committee. So this is the main mode of monitoring the operation, but there are some special features where the monitoring committee, by defining representatives who participate in activities, can be involved. And one special feature in that regard are so-called project support teams. Maybe as I mentioned this, I jump now a couple of slides because I think it fits here. What are project support teams? Project support teams will be established for all applied research activities and major projects regarding this objective 3 and 4, the monitoring and outreach. The idea of this project support teams is that these activities, these major activities, are accompanied by a small group from the drafting of the terms of reference until the closure of this project, to guide and to consult on two aspects, because it's led by a senior scientist of the single beneficiary to ensure the scientific quality of the project, but by also including a member of the ESPON monitoring committee or a delegated representative to ensure the usefulness for the public, for the policy. And so it should be at least one representative of the ESPON MC, one of the European Commission, and scientific expertise from the single beneficiary involved in order to optimize the policy relevance of the final delivery. So this is a consultative body, and it's consultative to the EGTSEE, because the EGTSEE is the main responsible body implementing the contracts with the service provider, and they are asked to consider the opinion of the project support team. But as they are the EGTSEE is the body who is in the end responsible, also in legal terms. There might be different opinions, but this should then be documented. Now I go back again. how can the stakeholders, researchers, and experts be involved? I mean, it was already said that broad involvement of all target groups in demand surveys as part of the annual work program elaboration and by feedback on achievements and the use of territorial evidence is ensured, will be ensured. Then the stakeholders from local, regional, and national authorities, as well as from the structural funds programs, can be involved in targeted analysis. There will be a kind of way, a call where interests can be expressed either this way or the via this surveys where an interest can be expressed. This will be detailed in the operation proposal elaborated by the ESPON EGTSEE. That's one of the elements which has to be further elaborated. So the EGTSEE gets a clear picture about the demand for this type of analysis or policy briefs. Then researchers and experts in applied research, targeted analysis, who are producing the evidence, they will be involved as service providers via public procurement. And ECP institutions can also, in principle, participate in tendering, in tendered activities, as long as they are not directly linked with other bodies of the program, being, for example, a member of the institution of the where also the monitoring committee is allocated. So, for example, if you would have an ECP which is in the same unit as the monitoring committee member in one ministry, this will be not possible to participate in tendering. And if there are lacking clarity about what are the conditions that need to be checked in a case-by-case study, case-by-case. So, now the question, what does it mean, contracting of services by the ESPON EGTSEE? So the service contracting under the use of public procurement is then the only way to contract services and activities by the ESPON EGTSEE. As I said, tenderers are not beneficiaries in the sense of the structural funds regulation and not subject to financial reporting and control as it is described in the regulation. So the principle then for paying the research organizations who are participating in this tendering is then to pay on deliveries. So that actually means in the practice that there must be a clear definition in the procurement what has to be delivered and under which conditions then payments are made. So you can already guess that in that case that when you compare that to the current system under the 2013 program, that the tendering documents have to be more precise in a way because about the expected deliveries, because this description of the services which have to be provided are then the if you like the benchmark to judge whether payments can be made or not. I mean, this is then, if you like, the deciding criteria. Before, it was the financial reports which have been checked by first-level controllers and the activities reports and so on. This is not necessary anymore. The point which gives the releases the payment is the delivery, and then then payments can be made. So therefore, and I'm sure those who have already participated in procurement, we can say that there is a reduced flexibility in changing the content of the contracted services, because of course this is what has been published as terms of reference is then also the reference to activate payments. Then there are in executing the services regular meetings on progress made, and as I said, the involvement of project support teams. The project support teams I was already explaining, and I think now it's becoming clear what the function is, because we normally will have longer lasting projects, maybe of 1 year, 1.5 years, and the idea is really to have an involvement of this team in a way that this project support team, that the members of this team doesn't change. So what you may have, those who have been participating in projects in the previous program, that you had maybe changing members of the knowledge support system, or that there are direct comments of the monitoring committee members at different stages of the implementation of the report. This is all then dealt with by this project support teams, and it should allow to have a consistent approach towards the projects during their lifetime. Now I come to the ESPON contact points, and here it needs to be said that the nomination of ECP institution will remain entirely at the discretion of member and partner states. So there were, I think it's not a secret to say that in the monitoring committee that was discussed at length whether there should be minimum requirements for the ESPON contact points, and it turned out that the situation in the country is very different, and some countries have bigger administrations who undertake this kind of contact point role already for national affairs. There it's relatively clear. Other countries prefer to have a more research-oriented ECP. Others would like to have it closer with the ministry, and so there was no real possibility to find a common approach, not because there was maybe no willingness to agree on it, but because the way how communication outreach is organized in the countries may differ regarding this type of activities like the ESPON, and it was not possible then to find a one-size-fits-all approach. Having said that, the tasks which have to be undertaken by the ECPs should be the same, and I think there the program is more clear, that it said that it should act as agents in the national and transnational context to support the outreach and the use of the ESPON territorial evidence in accordance with the outreach strategy of the ESPON 2020 cooperation program. In fact, the outreach strategy is defined by the ESPON EGTSEE as part of the single operation. So, and it has the task to activate relevant policymakers, scientists, and other stakeholders, and it should collaborate then with the EGTSEE in the context of the outreach strategy and with the MA in the sense of the communication strategy of the ESPON 2020 program. This is also a kind of subtlety, if you like, that regarding the structural funds regulation, the MA has to do a communication about the program, which is more about formal elements, informing about about the beneficiaries, how much money they get, and activities like this. But of course, the ESPON has a much more comprehensive mission in the way that all the results should be communicated, and this is part of the priority one, part of the operation. And in order to keep it semantically separate, we defined that this part of the activity is called outreach strategy, and it really also may may also express that this is a rather addressee-oriented way of communicating than a general communication, if you like. So, what kind of support can be given to the ESPON 2020 contact point network? I mean, the support is should help to ease the collaboration and coordination of European transnational and national activities by the MA under the technical assistance and by the EGTSEE as part of the outreach strategy. And what the MA can offer here is that twice a year an ECP meeting is organized by the MA where all the activities can be coordinated between ECPs, MA, and in particular the ESPON EGTSEE regarding this outreach strategy. So it's a kind of platform, as you call it, and the intention is also that the ESPON EGTSEE then will develop a platform, an integrated website for the ECPs, because that was also one of the lessons learned from the previous program, that it would be helpful if there is a kind of common access to the activities from the different ECPs via a common entry in order to benefit also from the activities maybe of neighboring countries. And then the idea is that in the further implementation of the activities in the work program, I mean, the EGTSEE may develop further ideas how these activities, the coordination can be improved. So, to sum up, I think what we can say, renewed ESPON cooperation program offers a matured organizational setup, and I think we can say that leaner, more efficient administration organization is offered, in particular with regard to the outreach, with regard to the target groups. I mean, we know that the new structural funds regulation offer quite some increased necessities about controls and audit trail and so on. But the good news is that this doesn't reach out to those who are actually not part of the program bodies and who are in that far then the users and producers of ESPON evidence. So the idea is also that a consolidated way of consulting about the needs for the ESPON program is implemented, that we have a improved scientific quality control and guidance regarding the usefulness of results for the policy process, and also the increased in-house capacity, that the EGTSEE is actually in the position to react on short notice demand in a much better way. And this slide actually should mirror what was said in the morning yesterday, where I put this slide on what are the lessons learned, what are the improvements which are demanded for the new program in comparison to the old program. And I think we can say that we, by this new organizational or renewed organizational setup, we could cover the majority of points which were raised in evaluations and discussions which were taking place in the wake of the formulation of the new program. So I hope I could give you a more detailed insight about the functioning and also about what your role may be and what would be connected with exercising this role in order to participate with the program. I thank you for your attention, and we have still questions and answers possible.
Okay. Thank you, Thiemo. As I saw, a lot of you made notes during this presentation, so I see there. Okay, yeah. There will be huge differences in organization and management of new ESPON program. That's why, therefore, sure, also we can see there could be some risks how it will work. But please, that's the right time to ask Thiemo, and let's get some explanations. From my point of view, I would like to ask you about these project support teams. And you know, for the first period, there will be service contracts and this public procurement procedure. And by signing such kind of contract, you are in a time frame. And if how do you see if there couldn't be a risk that these project support teams will react quickly enough to the problems arising in certain stages of the projects? How this will be arranged?
Oh, I mean, the idea is that the project, the proposal to install project support teams is already made in the formulation of the annual work program. So when the EGTSEE is submitting the annual work program, it will make a proposal for the applied research project, the bigger one anyhow, to install such a PST. And as it was set for the priority, the specific objectives, activities about monitoring and tools and outreach for major activities, that there is also such a PST installed. So actually, then it's clear before these activities, I mean, before the tendering starts, to which activities these teams are installed, and then they can also contribute in formulating or consult on the formulation of the terms of reference, and then they may accompany the tendering, the evaluation, the implementation of this program, and then also to judge the deliveries. And the idea is really then that we have a team which is in the same constellation accompanying this project for the whole lifetime. Yeah.
Okay, there is a question.
Hello, I have the question. If there are any activities foreseen for the ECPs supporting the calls, because as you said, maybe there is a first call in October. So are there any activities of the ECPs at national level foreseen to support those calls? Or maybe you can explain what you're thinking about that in this direction. This means maybe I have to do something in September or October. Thank you.
No, the principle of the public procurement is that this tendering takes place via the European sources which are used for informing about tendering, which are the usual ones for any European-wide procurement. Of course, ECPs can then start activities to further disseminate with reference to this announcement of the procurement on the European level. The principle is really that with this tendering, we have to comply with the European public procurement rules in full transparency, and we have to avoid any conflict of interest. And in that regard, we have to make sure that when we activate this kind of information campaign, that the anchor of all such activities are the European-wide information, where you then may further disseminate this information.
Thank you.
Good morning. There is no news about the discussion with the research community. ESPON seminar is envisaged in this arrangement, and in the past period we have the possibility to discuss the project result at interim stage with the lead partner and exchange opinion and support elaboration. And I believe that in this arrangement this place is very poor, it seems.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I mean, it's obvious that there will be some moment, and it's now up to the EGTSEE to make a proposal to coordinate between the different projects. So, of course, we also know that these seminars, they had good elements, they had elements which were maybe could be done better, and it's now also the moment where we can see and we have to revise, and this is one part of the outreach strategy and the coordination which is set up by the EGTSEE to make a good proposal on how this can be organized. I mean, what is clear is that one of the strengths of the ESPON program was actually to have a good exchange between the projects, which help to calibrate the approaches between the projects and to also ensure that there is a kind of corporate appearance of the results. And but how that should look in detail, this is now further developed and will then be part of the work program and the further implementation, how the EGTSEE is implementing this activity.
So, taking into account that a lot of countries haven't nominated ECPs yet, I suppose there is a question how exactly this will work for the next period. Please ask. I know there are a lot of ECPs, former ECPs are now present. Okay.
Hello. I'm aware that some of the ECPs, even though they have been nominated, they are not sure whether they will get any national financing. So they get this role and they don't get the budget. To which extent is ESPON program able to finance these tasks that you expect ECPs to do when they don't, well, some of them might not get national financing? Is it still the case that the least that ESPON can do is to finance the coming to ESPON seminars once for one person every half year? Can you maybe elaborate on this support from the program towards ECP tasks apart from outreach projects?
I mean, the program actually says that this involvement of the ECPs can be supported by a travel reimbursement of 1 person per ECP. And of course, there will be an approach which actually will combine these ECP meetings at key moments where the projects are discussed. I think that is obvious. But the program does not finance additional activities per se. I mean, the outreach strategy or the outreach which is implemented by should be implemented by the EGTSEE foresees some support for activities which are done on the national level, but this will be tendered via the EGTSEE, and there the ECPs may either apply to do it themselves or will be supported by these activities. But there is no, apart from these travel costs for the ECP meeting, no particular additional support foreseen.
So it actually means that a lot of will depend on how the EGTSEE will design this outreach strategy to foresee how this will be organized during 7-year period. So, and then we will have a question here, please.
Call for tender is not call for proposal as in the past previous. So I remind the first ESPON season call for tender. I image the single beneficiary or AZT ask on the base of CV the participation of group to the calls on the base of topics, and if it's so, ECP should at the same time disseminate and to be a competitor into the call if wanted to maintain its role is a practical and of course a scientific interest for some of us. It's no problem. It's correct.
In principle, it should be no problem because the information what is used by the ECP in their activities, it will be all public and available anyway. So, I mean, any other who may apply will have the same access to information for dissemination and so on as the ECPs. This is there is no, and this is the task also. I mean, this needs to be kept in mind by the EGTSEE when organizing the outreach, that all what is made available to the EGTSEE to the ECPs is publicly available for everybody, so that there is no advantage of being an EGTSEE in that regard. So, but I think this can be ensured by the strategy of the EGTSEE to make all information available on the website. So anybody who wants to use it can use it for any purpose to participate in tendering or use it as a policy maker and so on. I mean, this is, as we said, the program is based on two elements. First, to produce the evidence, and secondly, it's only successful when it is used, and therefore we give this outreach a very high priority, that it's accessible for everybody in a transparent way and in a very accessible and also in a high level of detail, so it can be used by everybody.
Having a ECP in every single participating country is a great asset for the ESPON program and could potentially be a great asset to project partners when they're looking for information to get this local knowledge. I was wondering if there was any thought given to this asset and whether in the new program there might be some room for project partners to be able to ask ECPs to help out with the projects, or if they are primarily going to be seen as vehicles for outreach and dissemination.
I think the function is primarily outreach and dissemination, and as we said, we have. It also depends on how the ECP is. I mean, on the profile of the ECP. That, as I said, we then may have a look in more detail. But the main purpose and is the outreach of the program, and we had a longer discussion also in the monitoring committee about that. And this made then the difference for the different countries, how they would like to organize it and what kind of emphasis they put, what they think is important in their country when disseminating ESPON results.
Hello, my question is about with this new organizational schema, which type of activities will be kept in-house, let's say, in the beneficiary side? I mean, for instance, data management or this type of support, scientific support to the projects that in the past were priority 3. Will there still be tendered, most of them, or which tasks will be kept by the
This is, I mean, as I said, that will be then task of the EGTSEE to find there the right cut between what is done in-house and what is tendered outside. And here the EGTSEE will make a proposal.
So this morning it was commented that according to the public procurement, the tender specifications are now particularly important because they list and specify the deliveries which are expected, and the payments follow as a consequence. Every time I produce some effects. And so this is very clear. Now,
we are just wondering whether this is outside a test or in the hotel, but I don't think in the hotel. No. Okay, good.
Christina.
We just have 2 minutes of test in the whole Latvia, so it's outside. We're testing the, how to say?
So it's not an
it's not
test
inside,
alarm
it's
in
outside
the
in
hotel.
all the Latvia, so it's for 2 minutes and then it stops. We're just testing if it's ready when it needs to be ready.
so we can continue? Yes. So this is a clear point. Now I'm referring to the specific objective 2 and to the new activity, the ability to feed relevant territorial evidence in a promptly and timely manner to selected policy processes will be strengthened through swift analytical deliverables such as policy briefs, working papers, or similar. So this aspect of quick reactions, capacity to respond. So my question is how to combine these procedures, so which implies that the project is clearly defined according to the tender specifications with this capacity timely to respond, I imagine also in the period of a project. So one idea could be a framework contract where there is the possibility to activate the participants in very quick procedures, but it's just an open question from my side.
Well, I think that's also one of the tasks that the EGTSEE has to specify, which is the best way to organize this. I mean, you said it yourself, there are different possibilities. And now when defining the the mode how the EGTSEE is working in detail and defining what kind of tasks are made in-house. I mean, we are not there yet. Then, of course, complementarily, this kind of questions will be solved. And we have, I mean, that's part then of the approach in the multi-annual work program to define how this should be organized. And then also in the annual work program, we may have in 1 year a particular emphasis on certain deliveries, in another year in a different way. And this is the kind of flexibility actually what we get now with this new setup, that if we want to put a new emphasis, it doesn't require a big reprogramming of the whole program. This can be much better achieved within this EGTSEE down to the demands and the requests, and I think therefore we have then to see how it's proposed in detail, and you will then be also informed, because how this should be then, how the involvement of experts will be organized.
It seems that annual work plan will be one of the most important documents to follow for the next period. So, do you have any questions? Not yet. Okay, then we can take a coffee break for half an hour. So, please come back at 10:30.